But how quickly, once your account was up, did you actually start seeing your account start to generate passive income?
It was probably, I started in April, so that was during tax time and the first announcements of the crazy tariffs.
Yeah.
So I did not experience a positive realization until the following week. I'd probably say just about 10, 11 days into it,
Yeah.
did I start seeing I think it was like 3%. I was like, well, shoot, 3% is better than the negative that we were at a couple of days ago. Like, so it was for me, you had to surmount getting back to zero and then getting up to 3%. So in my eyes, that was a good swing.
Kimiko, tell me about yourself. What have I, who am I speaking with on the line? What is your professional background?
Professional background. Well, part of me is a realtor. I also manage an office in Las Vegas. I also flip houses. And so one of the things that I think, and I know you speak to many people, but financially just didn't make the right decisions. A couple 100,000 later, a couple, 100,000 here, 100,000 there. And what I finally decided was that I needed to start setting up something for our future, even for now, really. I mean, just to capitalize on what's happening in the world right now. There's a win in every play. There's a win in every moment.
Sure.
Um, but at the same time, cleaning up sort of my financial investments from before. A little bit like your story, that you share with the rest of people, just a couple 100,000 in the wrong spots. And uh, I don't want to feel like I'm digging. I want to feel like as I'm working that stuff out, we're also moving forward. No matter how small it is, it's still
Yeah.
energy in the right direction.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
And so, yeah. And so, but also I'm in real estate because my ad vocation is I'm a Division 1 basketball official for women's college basketball. So because of I'm not pursuing that full time, so I don't make the 300,000 a year or anything like that.
Mm.
But I'm happy with what we're doing, and it gives a little extra coin in our pocket, and it still keeps me connected to the sport that really kept me on the right side of the tracks. So that's really all that I am in a nutshell. And then my partner, she is a development project manager. So she works in two time zones. She works Bangladeshian time zone with the development team,
Mm.
as well as Pacific and Mountain, so to speak. But she's focused on that, and it's she's always been really good about supporting me with my investments. Now I just get to make after all the lessons, rather than be wrong. I rather just take the lessons and keep it moving.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You don't take a loss, you take a lesson and apply it to your next thing.
Right.
It's only an actual loss if you didn't learn anything, is what I've heard.
Eh,
So
Clearly,
yeah.
clearly. So we're in a good growth position, and we're speaking about adding more to our account in 26. Just really need to stick to the plan in 25 so that we can actually have something to invest.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And so then you had a couple 100,000 here, 100,000 there, and some, investments that didn't exactly pan out. But what in your eyes was the main motivation for wanting to make passive income to be able to continue to referee, or how did that look for you?
I actually had to start trusting in people again. So, in the transformational, they always have the saying, if it's to be, it's up to me. And I actually think that we're better together,
Mm.
you know, and the to be, if it's up to me, if it's to be, it's up to me also leaves God out of the equation. So there's no we in that conversation. And so I'm a traveling minister as well. We sing all around the world. And that's half the reason why everyone started laughing at me. Because if I didn't have basketball, if I didn't travel all around the world for God and for singing, they're like, "Oh, you'd actually be rich, Kim." And I'm like, "I am rich. I'm completely rich. Now I just want to be rich and wealthy."
Yeah, there
So
you go.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But
Yeah.
the idea was really, I didn't want to live under the hat or the guise of I need to climb out of debt. I don't want to do that. I think that all these people knew the risk when they got involved with it. We did really well. Just don't get me wrong. Let me just say that we flipped a lot of houses and we did really well. When the interest rates started going up, I chose not to find a better way. And so at the end of the day, we just lived off the income. There wasn't a more of a planning.
Mm.
And I don't like living paycheck to paycheck. I
Yeah.
hadn't lived that way for 10 years. And then all of a sudden I'm living that way again. And it was weird.
Mm.
And I thought, I don't know how. And if I didn't handle the thoughts that created the paycheck to paycheck mentality, then I was going to create it again. So I created it again. And now we're doing something different. And your program, passive income, was different,
Yeah.
and the entry level was at a place where we were willing to risk it unemotionally,
Mhm.
not be attached, and see what happens as it went along. So that's where we are.
Yeah, that makes sense. And for you, what did you try before? I know that you mentioned you were flipping houses. Did you try anything that didn't require blood, sweat, and tears, and you were wanting to make it a passive situation, or was everything just work? Like
It
you,
the only other thing that wasn't work was cryptocurrency. I mean, don't get me wrong, if we sold everything right now, we wipe out all our debt, but that doesn't make sense either, you know. And so we what we did was we took half of the crypto and we sold it and gave us some breathing room.
yeah,
And so, it's almost like starting at zero,
mm,
but not quite. But zero where you can breathe is actually a place where you can actually think.
yeah,
So that's
yeah.
that's really what that is. So the crypto didn't take blood, sweat, and tears. I got in at 676 a coin. So I'm not mad about that.
Yeah, it's excellent. That's a good spot to be in. And,
Yeah,
this is one of the things that people have really changed their lives with. But, also for as much as they've changed their life for the positive, there's been some people who have had some terrible, decisions because of crypto. And,
absolutely. And
so
you hold your bag too long and it's just stupid. And, as progressive as I thought I was being, because I was investing with a guy who actually required nothing from me. It's the guys afterwards that I wasn't happy about my decisions.
mm,
It was at a time where getting rich quick doesn't make any sense. And you can't get rich quick if you keep holding a bag. And if the bag goes up and you don't get out, it's coming down.
yeah, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
so learned lesson.
Yeah, only profits are the realized profits.
That's right.
So in your eyes, I mean, you were flipping houses, you went from times were amazing to times were a little rough as
Mhm.
far as the interest rates. And I know I've seen a lot of people in that space, and that was one of the biggest problems, the interest rate issues and inflation as well, the appreciation of homes. Now the margins aren't as thick as large.
Yeah.
A lot of more people started going into the space because it got popularized and all this stuff. So, what exactly made you like kind of aware of ATN? How did you actually hear about us? Was there an ad or a video that really stuck with you?
Your ads were pretty pervasive. I'm not gonna lie, they worked. They worked. And then my partner's a snoop, so she looked you out. She looked out for you, kind of checks, stuff through. She had her reservations, but then when we were able to get on a call with you with a couple other people and ask you direct questions, I think your sincerity actually closed the deal. That's really where that was. And then at the end of the day, um, she and I did decide if we don't take a leap of faith somewhere in humans again, we're going to be in trouble. And so that's where we were. And again, our investment wasn't enough. It wasn't going to make or break. It wasn't going to solve our problems. It wasn't going to do anything. So if I'm working right now with sweat, if I'm still putting in some sweat equity, then we can have some other money just work for us. That
Absolutely.
was really what it was.
Yeah. And always your actual earned income is going to be your best wealth building tool. And so it's still important to have money coming in as well as have your investments working for you. So
Mhm.
you're doing it the right way. And, that's definitely something that, I appreciate hearing. And how did you feel? So you saw our ads, you were like, oh, I see this guy everywhere. This is just constant. My goodness. And then you decided to, kind of come onto a call and ask some more of your questions, get a real feel for maybe who I am and what we're about. How did you actually feel just before joining ATN? Were you nervous? Were you skeptical, or was it just not enough capital to where it was really emotional, like you mentioned?
So it's not enough to be emotional. I mean, when like you said in one of your videos, when you lose 100,000, you're like, oh, well, okay. And then when you find yourself coming back out of that and closing that deal off, okay, well then 10,000 is not gonna, like I said, it's not gonna make or break us. However, 10,000 was enough. It's also a litmus test for myself as well, and it's how I used to treat smaller investors when we were flipping a ton of houses. I had friends who couldn't get in for more than 5 or 10. Now, keeping track of the numbers was a pain. But one of the things that I thought was that you reap what you sow, if you will. And so we also thought maybe it's just an opportunity. If there was an opportunity to get in for what I call such a small square,
Sure.
because we had given out small squares to help our friends, get not get rich, but make some money, and they did.
Yeah.
Not it, all those everybody that invested with me. That was the other thing. Everybody that invested with me won. That wasn't the issue. It's how we spent our money afterwards. That was us. I
Yeah.
did never, I never mishandled anyone else's funds. That was never it. But it was interesting the thought process of the onerous to handle someone else's funds so properly or so conscientiously, and then we're living like we're rich. Not the smartest thing to do. So
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, yeah, like we said, you live and you learn, and now those are things that hopefully you don't make the same
yeah,
mistake twice when interest rates do come back around, and they're hopefully
right.
in the threes or the whatever the percentage would be, and you already know the
Even
game.
fives would be all right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. You already are in the game, and so that would be really helpful, I know. But
Yeah,
certain lessons that you'll be able to take, and so the reason why we have an even more economy option, it's just for those that are in a situation maybe similar that cash is they are somewhat paycheck to paycheck, even though that the paychecks can be larger and things like that.
correct.
But it doesn't matter if it's still you could make $1 million a year and still be paycheck to paycheck. So
Absolutely.
those are things that we're conscious of, and everybody's in different spots, and we have something for everyone, we like to think. There is a barrier, of course,
Sure.
but for the most part, of course, we do have pretty wide ranging options, and I'm glad that we found one that fits with you, and it's working to this point. And so now when you actually decided to join ATN and you had your onboarding call, how was the actual setup? How did that work for you?
First of all, the initials, Carson made it easy. I'm very busy in terms of having to be different places. Like I'm not at home in front of a laptop. I was supposed to be, but she didn't make it, so I'm here.
Yeah.
So he made that stuff easy, which was great. And then Jean was really good about um, giving me both him and Carson giving our account the most that we could get, and then still making sure that ATN wins too. So like we're in the win-win. Like you can't give me the moon on 10 grand. You know what I mean? But it was a cool split. So I was happy about that. The final decision was I have to say that Jean's family is invested in ATN, and so while not his whole family, and that was an honest conversation, the sibling that trusts him is in. The other ones that want to do their own thing are not. And I think that's really important. I think that's in every family. My family, a couple of my cousins got into flipping houses with me, and I have 21. But if I said a couple, they ain't all 21.
Yeah.
So, and I appreciate that. I think that that's something that if you're not drinking your own Kool-Aid, we're in trouble.
Yeah. No,
And then,
that
Jean told, I think it was father, okay, or somebody, one of his parentals, okay, put the money here and just don't look at it, which was really good. Because if you look at it, you're going to ask me questions every day and I'm not going to be able to answer them for you.
yeah,
So those were all truthful answers. At least my partner and I felt they were truthful and the sincerity behind it.
definitely.
So that triggered the wire. Actually, that same day, it triggered the wire and then it was off.
Yeah, that's great. And Jean is definitely one of the most sincere individuals that I know, and it's great because these are things. I mean, when I'm building this type of a business, I have people that I've worked with previously, and relationships that I've formed, and you never know when you're gonna work with someone again, or when you're gonna need someone's skill set, or if you ever will. And one of the things with Jean and Julio, basically everyone that you've encountered, it's been moments where they've proven themselves to be genuine, transparent, authentic, all of the qualities that represent us as a company. So I'm glad again to hear that you've experienced that on your end. But I mean, maybe that's a part of what makes ATN different, the customer service or the attention to those type of details. But in your eyes, what do you feel like makes ATN different?
I think that setting manageable expectations, but really with your algorithms and the trading actually being able to support that. You're not promised the moon, and yet at the same time, the way that the trades are set. I mean, I do watch that stuff. Just because I look doesn't mean I don't investigate, or I only look twice a month, but I still investigate. What
Sure.
happens is that what you have said has come to fruition, and those I think are, especially with people's money, it's like I think that's important. And so for me, it aligns with the values that I have when I'm handling other people's money. Now I just get to handle our own money the same way.
Exactly.
And that's
And
and that's that was it.
yeah, well, I mean, I always say I can show you better than I can tell you. And so for people on the front end who have a good amount of questions and things, and I answer those questions you've seen. but it's just a matter of what's actually going to happen with your capital, what's going to happen with your account, what's going to happen when you join, because the markets will be a little bit different. It could be
Hmm.
higher, it could be lower, it could be the same. We don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. We just have algorithms that perform based off of the parameters that are set, and they have
Hmm.
human intervention in order to adjust accordingly. And historically, we've had great returns. But again, past performance doesn't dictate future results. And so I'm glad to see on your end that you're experiencing, what we've mentioned on the front end. And, we're really happy about that. And so when you did get your account started and, you're seeing kind of movements happening, I know you're not checking off very often, but how quickly, once your account was up, did you actually start seeing your account start to generate passive income?
It was probably, I started in April, so that was during tax time and the first announcements of the crazy tariffs.
Yeah.
So I did not experience a positive realization until the following week. I'd probably say just about 10, 11 days into it
Yeah.
did I start seeing I think it was like 3%. I was like, well, shoot, 3% is better than the negative that we were at a couple of days ago. Like, so it was for me, you had to surmount getting back to zero and then getting up to 3%. So in my eyes, that was a good swing.
Yeah.
And then from there, I mean, not every day is a winner, but the weeks have been winners. And
Yeah.
that was, I would probably say 10 to 14 days right after the account. But I also am very aware of the time frame and the season that I wired the money.
hmm Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I mean, the tariffs took the absolute world. You can't even underestimate. It took the world by storm. I mean, that was big news and affected a lot of people. A lot of layoffs happened. A lot of, companies went out of business because they couldn't keep up with the margins and,
mhm.
things like that. So a lot of traders, a lot of like strategies blew up because of it. A lot of stuff happened because of it. And I'm glad that we were able
Yep,
to navigate that. And for us, for the most part, we're out of that, but there is still some shrapnel left over
absolutely.
from the tariffs. Um, but that being said, I'm glad that you were able to swing out of that pretty quickly and positively. So for you,
Yep.
it's been a few months, several months even to this point. Where would you actually rank ATN compared to some of the other ventures or ventures that you've tried or looked into or thought about, or how would you rank
I
ATN?
think that I would probably say the top three. And the only reason why I say top three, I mean, as far as stocks are concerned, I mean, as far as fiat is concerned, I'd probably say that ATN is number one for myself. Um, and I probably say that Ishraq would say the same thing. The there isn't a moon effect, and I think that you guys with your human intervention, that you do, in my limited opinion, do a really good job of mitigating. I don't know if you get back in there to adjust parameters or anything like that, and that's none of my business. But I think whatever you guys do, you do a good job to make sure that the swings aren't so low.
Mhm.
And I think that your stop losses for the day, the percentages, I think that they're more conservative, and I actually appreciate that. We have another guy that has a higher threshold for
Mhm.
loss for the day, and not my favorite.
Mhm.
Not
Mhm.
my favorite. So we haven't invested anything with him. Like I said, it's one of those things like we have to stay on track. And what's left at the end of 2025, our intention is to put it into ATN, into our account with ATN for 2026 and see how that grows,
Yeah.
And that's so I don't want to say safe and sure. There's nothing ever safe. Comfortable. We're comfortable. You would be our number one stop to put additional funds into once we've achieved some of the rest of our 2025 intentions.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I appreciate you guys putting that faith in not only us, but into the strategies because, and of course, there's a reason, right? Seeing is believing. It's not necessarily like, oh, you're just trusting my word. It's like you're seeing your accounts and the types of returns. And, we're kind of still in the slower season a little bit. And
Hmm.
the third quarter is typically the best trading quarter in the space. So we're kind of coming up on that right now. That being said,
Hmm.
how is for you, how passive has it all been? I know when you started, you had to get onboarded, you had to get your account set up and everything. But after that point, how much work have you had to do? How passive has it been for you after the onboarding?
It's passive. It's truly the definition of passive. It's zero effort. I mean, unless getting on a call with you is considered effortful. How often do I get to talk to the CEO of the investment company? I don't. I'm not going to talk to anyone at Goldman Sachs. I'm not talking to anyone at Schwab. But that's why I took everything out of that. I mean, I have my own self-managed Roths, and we've done really well with those, but I can't take them out.
Yeah.
So they're not the answer to our solution. So this passive income was really an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
That's really so passivity, 100, almost 100% passivity. 0.1% if I had to say that there was an effort to come on the call to
Yeah.
speak to the CEO. So there you have it.
Not too bad. Not too bad of
Not
an
too bad.
answer. Okay, I understand. And how likely, I mean, it's been a few months to this point and, a few more months, a couple more years, whenever it would be when you're actually comfortable, but considering it's able to continue on in this way, how likely would you actually be to recommend us?
Highly, actually, highly likely. The issue with me, though, is I also do surround myself with very wealthy people who have their own mindset. So I am very well aware of who I'm surrounded by.
Yeah.
And I'm also surrounded by some very powerful women of color that
Mm,
have funds, but they also, they're not, their investments are tied up and have not been sort of social media influenced, if you will. And
understood.
so there are a few looking at me, from the sidelines and trying to see what's possible or what happens. And so, but they're very savvy. They didn't get that way without, they didn't get to be rich women without being savvy about that. So they're
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah.
And my year's in April. So that's where we are.
Yeah, no, and that's excellent. And we want those people to see live accounts and know, not just screenshots or things that we can share on our Zoom or things of that nature. It's more of like you'll be able to see your friend or your colleague or your family member have that type of those types of results. So that's for us. Hey, Kelsey, that's for us one of the things that is very important for like I mentioned, seeing is believing. And the last question that I have, Kimiko, is you are someone that has, been on the other side of the advertising, been on the other side of a decision to join the community, and you're having success. It's been positive feedback. For those that are maybe watching YouTube or watching me on Instagram or wherever they're looking at, and they're skeptical naturally because they're, maybe, more tight or whatever the circumstance are because 90% of the clients that we have were skeptical before starting. What would you maybe say to them who are financially capable, but still just a little bit nervous or skeptical about joining?
I think it's important to do your own research and at the same time, schedule a face to face or be in a group call with you. I think that's the most important thing. Speak to the person who, I mean, before you make up how far away a CEO is, make the appointment with you. That's really that's our meeting with you, even though it was group, hinged on whether or not you answered Ishraq's questions honestly. And if it didn't past that, it wasn't happening. And she's a scientist, so her own litmus test. That's really what that is. And at the end of the day, whatever it is you do invest, you can't be emotional about it. There's just no way. There's no way to be emotional about it. And so you hope you're not praying for anything, but do your due diligence. And I think you'll be happy with your results.
Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that
So
feedback. And on our end, it doesn't stop here, right? You continue on with if you have questions, you need support, the channels, the people to reach out to, and the timeline for a response, hopefully is as quick as I believe it is.
they've been great.
Okay,
They've
excellent.
they, they've been fine. It's me. I don't have Slack on ping, so I have to check Slack. That's
Yeah,
my fault. That is not your guys' fault. It's mine.
okay. All right. Fair
Yeah.
enough. I won't, judge you too harshly, just want to make sure that you have what you need. And with that being said, those are my questions and I appreciate you taking the time. Did you have any questions, anything for me at this point?
No, thank you for taking the time with me. I appreciate that. And I will make sure that I pass this information on to Ishraq. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Enjoy your day. Have a great showing and we'll talk soon.
All right. Take care and bye-bye.
So every 30 days, I talk one-on-one with my clients, and that was their experience. If you want to learn more on how we help our clients earn 60% or more per year, then click the link in the description below.